Funding for many of our programs are provided through generous donations from listeners like you. And now, welcome to Movies and More with Stacy Hovis and John Brandon. Every week, Stacy and John come to you with the latest movies in the marketplace. Media experts Stacy and John take you to the movies and tell you what's hot and what's not in the media world. Stacy and John host conversations about the topics in the films. Their mission is to guide you through the media world. Okay, audience, here's Stacy and John.
Hello and welcome to Movies and More. John Brandon's on assignment, so I'll be holding down the fort while he's gone. We have a very interesting guest today I've known for a while. And to say this guy is multi-talented is absolutely an understatement. Just to give an example, he's a director, producer, choreographer, performer, and an author. His talent in production and direction has taken him from Broadway to Brazil. He starred in 42nd Street on Broadway. His most noteworthy collaboration was with Lee Newman, director and choreographer of a new musical, Sunny Side of the Street. Ken is a composer and lyricist for a new children's TV show, W.C. Fields' Wizards of Inspire. I think I said that right. I don't know. Hey, so forgive me for the bogus W.C. Fields. I couldn't resist. So Ken's most recent screenplay, A Dickens of a Christmas, has been optioned and should get the green light for production and release this year. And the list goes on and on. Ken Prescott, welcome to Movies and More.
Well, thank you, Stace, for having me. It's great. Yeah, it's actually W.C. Fields' Wizard of Inspiria.
Well, here, somebody know we had a typo. I'm lucky I got that out. But listen, it's late at night. You're typing. You spill coffee on the computer. Well, good. Thank you for straightening us out on that. Ken, listen.
No problem.
We've talked on and off for quite a while. But I guess I never really asked you, really, what first introduced you to show business? What got you started? If you can share that with us.
Well, it's so funny, Stace. We'll talk about St. Louis in a minute, but I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and then subsequently moved back. And for some reason, at age 12, I decided I was going to make marionettes. Now, I'm not talking about little crappy things that, kind of wiggle around. I got a book. I molded the body parts and heads out of plasticine clay. I cast a plaster of Paris mold. I used Celastic, which you dip in acetone and it becomes malleable. And so I had like 3-foot puppets, and my dad helped me build the stage. We did the sound. So that really, not only did it pique my interest in show business, but I learned a lot about production, believe it or not. And I was only 12 at the time.
Sure. So that was really pretty much kind of your impetus that got you kicked off in the right direction. So as part of I guess, the public culture, you really took that kind of to the next level. Now you did that for a while. Is that correct?
I did. Yeah, I did it for about a year or two. And then I was in high school and I had a wonderful music teacher, Bill Kellogg, and he was, believe it or not, now remember I'm in Omaha, he was the resident baritone at the Muni Opera in St. Louis. And I came in and he, thought I could sing really well. And so I started doing leads in musicals, and Bill was a great musician. And I mean, I got fine musical training where I think kids today probably aren't fortunate enough to have that kind of musical training. And so he introduced me to his voice teacher, Josie Whaley, who husband was stationed at Sac Air Force Base in Omaha, and she was one of the stars of the Munich Opera. So I got wonderful vocal training. And then, we had a community theater in Omaha called the Omaha Community Playhouse, but it was state of the art. They had a scene shop. It was just first class. And I auditioned for a show there, Bye Bye Birdie, my first little show. And the choreographer was Emmeline Skinner, who had been soloist with Stuttgart Opera Ballet and San Francisco Ballet, was starting a ballet academy. So she said, "Oh, come on down." I said, "Oh, I don't know. My dad was going to like that." she said, and she said, "Don't worry, I'll give you a scholarship." And she was a phenomenal teacher. And what's so funny about the whole thing is before she said, well, do you tap dance? And I said, well, I'd like to. She said, listen, come down and like an hour and a half before class and I'll teach you. She worked with me. She was an expert. And I learned everything, singing and dancing in those formative years. And
Wow.
believe it or not, at the Omaha Community Playhouse, there was a director named Kendrick Wilson. And he was kind of not scary, but, very kind of austere and stern with the glasses on his nose, very professional. And even those community playhouse, if you didn't come know your lines or anything, your butt was in a sling. So I learned discipline and how to channel my talents at a very early age.
Mm-hmm. Now, as part of your dance training, that really, in a sense, kind of sets the stage for a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But you were so blessed to have someone that kind of took you under their wing and showed you the ropes. She was a fantastic person.
Stacey, it's funny, but I'm hoping that there are people like that out there today, but I don't think, unfortunately, I don't believe we have the same kindness in us. Not everybody, but many people, that when you see someone who's really talented, you want to take the time to, give them the benefit of your experience and wisdom. And I was really lucky to have had that opportunity.
Well, you certainly were. Well, Ken, you have many talents. And while this may be a difficult question, which of your talents do you enjoy the most? And why would you say you enjoy it?
Boy, that's really a tough question. It's a tough question.
Okay. We're in a tough question business.
Well, when I started out, of course, I was a performer. Right. And at 16 and a half, there was the draft then, and so my dad said, enlist in the Air Force, which I did. And of course, I was promptly sent to Vietnam, which was okay, I guess. Anyway,
well, thank you for your service. I served in the Navy as well, and we're giving away our age, but I was Vietnam era as well. And I never made it in country. I was a corpsman in the Navy, but I came across a lot of sailors and Marines that came from there. So I kind of experienced it vicariously through those guys. So I'm glad that you and so many more of our young guys made it back safe and sound. So hoorah.
Well, I know I was 18 and, just to digress for just a minute. So they plop you with your, duffel bag at Cameron Bay, and I'm sitting there and all these guys are going by without arms and legs. And I thought, oh, geez, I'm in a world of shit here. But fortunately for me, and it's so funny, I was stationed in Air Base and there was a contest and I won subsequently through many, contests. I won the Air Force Worldwide Contest and went to Hollywood and made a short film for them. Yes.
So basically you were bucking for special services at that point in time, right?
Well, it's funny, I was, but you know what? Sometimes when you're really good, people don't want to bring you into the fold because they're not quite up to what my talent was. I sang Vesta la Juba from Pagliacci. I ripped off my clown top, and I went, and I went to a song called "Once My Tails Were Shabby Tailors Called Me Cabby," all in Use the Girl, and I tap danced and I won the contest. Anyway, so I didn't get into special services, but that was fine. And when my tour, my 4 years was almost over. It's so funny. People think they're going to change your mind. I have a very strong will. And the first sergeant called me and said, you really need to enlist. I said, are you kidding me? I'm going to Broadway. And he said, yeah, right. Well, I was out. A month later, I was lead dancer at Radio City Music Hall in New York City.
I'd say you pretty much called that shot. Well, listen, this gets back to my question. What talent do you like the most? And it sounds to me like if I was to say a song and dance man, I'd think that pretty much describes you, right?
I think it does. And, early on, of course it does. And I've done a lot of many, many musicals and started with some wonderful people and so forth. And, I had a psychic reading once, several times. Interesting. And this guy said, you're going to write musicals. And I went, yeah, right. I don't think so. He said, well, I think so. And, which is really funny. So I also, then I got into directing and choreographing, which is great. And I had some wonderful shows. I did some off-Broadway shows and things. And then in the interim, I started writing. As you mentioned earlier, I wrote Sunny Side of the Street, the magical music of Jimmy McHugh. And Lee Newman was Jimmy McHugh's great-grandson.
Wow.
And so we became friends. And he, I'm going to direct and choreograph the show, but he gave me a lot of insights into Jimmy McHugh. And he's also the great-grandson of Eddie Cantor.
Eddie Cantor.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was really, wonderful. And then I wrote with a partner, writing partner, I wrote a musical version of a Christmas carol called A Dickens of a Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And we wrote all the music and the title song, A Dickens of a Christmas. And I thought, this would make a great film. So the film that I wrote is called A Dickens of a Christmas, the movie.
Right. Okay. So that's what's been optioned, or you basically got that in development now. You shared that with me some time ago, and I remember thinking at the time, a wonderful, wonderful concept. And every Christmas there's any number of productions that come out from the Christmas Chipmunks. I mean, you name it, they're out there. And of course, we can never forget about It's a Wonderful Life, which seems to have a life that will never end. I don't know what that made the first year out in 1944, but gosh, I know it seems to be surviving in perpetuity, But the Christmas genre content is always very much in demand. And as I said before, when I reviewed this some time ago with you, I remember thinking, boy, Ken's on to something, So the gentleman that basically came on board with you to help you along with this thing was pretty instrumental, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, the Lee Newman was instrumental in Sunny Side of the Street.
Yes.
That was my Broadway show.
Yes.
I kind of did this, by myself.
Oh, okay. So the Christmas thing that was pretty much your baby, kind of all encompassing. Gotcha. Okay. Want to make sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Oh no. It's and what's interesting. It goes. It has some ethnic diversity, but it goes to the soup kitchen. It goes to the Veterans Hospital.
Sure.
We kind of hit all bases, but it's not maudlin or downtrodden. I like to celebrate Christmas in a happy manner, and so that's. And I've written 8 original songs, which are they go from swing. Have yourself a Dickens of a Christmas, to things like When You Need a Friend at Christmas Time and You're Searching in Your Heart. So there's all kinds of different styles, which makes it interesting. So it doesn't have the same sound,
right,
or even look to it.
How very exciting live stage productions are. But as a producer, are they more intense than, say, film productions, which I know you have delved into both? So in a nutshell, to get a Broadway show off the ground, or even an off-Broadway show off the ground, a lot of intense stuff goes into it. And I, as a film guy, never having delved into the stage before, I was always kind of in awe about that. So can you kind of explain your take on live Broadway productions versus film as far as, let's say, the excitement of doing it?
Well, sure. I mean, both film and stage, of course, start out with the script and hopefully a really good script. And there's always the pre-production, no matter what, with the sets, the costumes, the lighting, the musical director and everything. But then the stage is, of course, certainly different because, generally speaking, an original Broadway show, which I've done a couple of, and some standards, you get 4 to 6 weeks rehearsal. and it's very intense, and you choreograph the show and direct the show and learn the music and all of that stuff. Once it's set, it's set, and although there are brush up rehearsals here and there, and it's 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and when that, you really have to be on your mettle, as it were. Now, a film, as of course is so different, because you may shoot 30 seconds of a scene and then cut and do it again. And they're like little pieces of mosaic when you're shooting a film.
Exactly.
And then the editor and the director are the ones that put it together. And once it's there, it's there. And in a film, as of course, when you want an audience to zero in on something, or you do it in the editing, you do the close-ups and stuff stage. When you direct and choreograph, it's a totally different thing, because in order for the audience to zero in on what you want them to look at, it has to do with lighting, it has to do with the way you choreograph the show, with the actors' positions. So it's a totally different kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So basically, what I guess we're trying to say is, obviously it's two different genres of the industry, but as a film screenplay writer and would be sometimes producer, I always like the fact that we can do it over again. But in a stage production, when it's a live audience kind of thing, you gotta get it right the first time. And I tell you what, I am in absolute awe of that end of the business, Ken. And I know that you guys work your tail off to perfection, so it goes off smooth without the mess up. I guess you always have a certain amount of, maybe you like to do it over again kind of thing. But I tell you what, I'm in awe of live stage productions. I'll just say that.
Well, it's so fun. You're exactly right, Jason. What's interesting is, of course, sometimes I feel that movie actors could be a little snappier. How many takes can you do? On stage, when that curtain goes up at 8 o'clock or 7:30 or whenever it goes up, you're absolutely right. There's no opportunity for a second chance.
Right.
So you have to be prepared, warmed up, and ready to go. But it's kind of great, because it really keeps the drive going and the energy going, and it makes for a wonderful evening's entertainment.
Yep, absolutely. Now let's kind of go back just a little bit. Talk about the time that you spent in St. Louis. I know you were here for how many years was it?
Oh gosh, I wish I could. Well, I was there and then I returned. I was born in Omaha.
Yeah.
We moved to Des Moines when I was I think 5, and I think 7. We moved to St. Louis. Now my dad was, was an executive with a beer company called Falstaff, if you recall.
Griesedick beer.
Yes.
I remember
right.
Well. Absolutely. They used to have their offices, corporate offices or sales offices, not too far from where I live on Oakland Avenue. Now people from out of St. Louis or that have never been here, this is completely foreign to them. So we're going down memory lane here. But I do remember Falstaff. And I got to ask you this, just as a completely off script here. Falstaff's demise. I mean, at one time I had friends of mine that had invested in the stock in the really, really last days. But one of the things was that they decided to go into the dog food business, I think. And for whatever reason, it didn't pan out, and they didn't modernize their equipment, much like what Budweiser did like year after year. And for whatever reason, like I say, they failed. Would your father tell us that today if he were around? Would he say they shouldn't have gotten the dog food business?
It's so funny. I have no information about that.
Right.
I know that, it was number 3 in the nation. It was a big beer company.
They were big. Yes.
Big. And my dad had, I would say, ran 8 states or 12 states. He had a big job doing that, and it was a very good job. And we went to a lot of business functions, and everybody was nice. I can't speak to that because I don't know a darn thing about that dog food. Why the hell would they put in the dog food?
Well, you know what? That was what my buddy asked himself over and over again, because I think he bought in the strike price. The stock was selling under $10 a share. I think he bought it like at 7 or 8, and he watched it just steady go down to where goodbye, zero value. And a big thing, everybody sees 2020 in hindsight, and I think it was the thing where management, they were trying to expand or take advantage of what they thought was a budding market, and it just doesn't work out. But hey, that's history or whatever. But now, so where did you go to school when you were in St. Louis? Do you remember?
I wish I could. Just let me think about this a minute. No, I remember it was we lived in Kirkwood. So
okay,
and I went to this grade school, which I really liked. I had, this will all come to fruition very shortly. So I had a third grade teacher named Mrs. Hunker. I loved her, and I just loved her, and she was, she made everything interesting, and we'd have storytelling out. She would read the books, and I mean, it was quite wonderful. And then, as luck would have it, or fate would have it, my father was transferred back to Omaha, Nebraska, and that's when I started my puppets and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So when I got interested in singing and dancing, my one of his assistants' cousin his assistant's wife had a cousin who ran the Lala Bauman School of Dance in St. Louis.
Wow.
And it was a big school of dance. I didn't know them. So my dad said, oh God, my son wants to, wants to audition for the St. Louis Muni Opera. And I can't quite figure out, I know how I knew, because my high school music teacher was a resident baritone there. And I thought, gosh, that would be terrific. So my dad was a great guy. He arranged everything. I went down by myself. I was 16. I got on the train. Dolores Wine and met me at the station. And Lala Bauman, who owned the studio. And they picked me up. They were so nice and took me to dinner. And I went, and the audition was at the Fox Theater in St. Louis. I remember that very well. And I auditioned. Well, lo and behold, I got the job, and I got my Actors Equity card.
Good for you.
So, so I was 16 and a half when I did the season at the Muni, and I was I think it was one of the youngest full-time, there were some kids in some shows, but I was the youngest full-time resident of the chorus there, and the only guy from the Midwest. It was just amazing. The rest of them were from New York, and
right.
Not the girls, but the guys.
Understood. Yeah.
And Stacey, how wonderful the Muni Opera is.
Oh, I tell you what, it's kind of the gem of Forest Park in the summer. It's a must-see thing, and that's where performers put on summer stock, like we say, and it's just an incredible experience. And for years we had season tickets, and then I guess we got a little bit older, and it was like, well, I either take the kids to the ballpark where they want to go, or to Six Flags, and for some reason we just kind of drifted away. And it's really sad because I live like a mile away from Forest Park, so that's how stupid I am, I guess. Listen.
Well, and I was so lucky. I don't know if any of the audience will remember these people, but gosh, I got to do shows with Patrice Wymore, who was married to Errol Flynn, McDonald Carey, Donald O'Connor, Pernell Roberts, who was in Trapper John M.D. on all.
And Bonanza.
And Bonanza.
Let's not forget Bonanza. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm in L.A. This is years later, and these two guys said, "Listen, we're going to a wake today. I want you to come with us." I said, "I don't know anybody there." Oh, he said, "They'll either be Jewish or Italian. Don't worry about it." So I walk in the door, and I'm going, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. I felt like such a doofus fairy." And I went to the bar, and there stands Pernell Roberts. Yeah. Now, this is the kind of a classy guy he was. I said, "Mr. Roberts, I'm sure you don't remember me, but I did the Muni Opera with you. Oh, he said, of course I remember you. He was a liar. Of course he
Of
didn't.
course, but a very good liar, apparently.
But he was so nice.
Right.
So, those were the times when people were really nice,
Yeah, exactly. Sometime back, you had talked to me about, I guess you had conceived a one-woman show called A Gold Digger, Not That Kind, starring Susie Chatham. And she had a little bit of a history with Mr. Dean Martin. Tell us about that.
Yes, she did. Well, she was one of the original Dean Martin gold diggers.
Right.
And I can't remember exactly how I got in touch with Susie out here in the desert, but she called me and said, listen, I want to do this one-woman show, and I'm looking for a director and somebody to help me, co-create this and stuff. So we met a few times, and we just hit it off. And it's a great show because she sings, belts out those numbers, and we have great media with the show and great costume changes. And it just goes through her career, but also it really encapsulates the golden age of entertainment and all the shows she did with Dean Martin. And then the Gold Diggers had their own show in the summer for 2 or 3 seasons. And she did a lot of, TV and that kind of stuff. So it's a wonderful show. And it would play anywhere great because it's a full show. It's not just, a club act where you get up. It has media with the screens, and she has great, wonderful tracks and everything. So it was lots of fun to do. And it's wonderful to, I think, evoke those wonderful golden days of entertainment. Don't you?
Sure. Now, was that off Broadway or on Broadway?
No. Actually, we've just done regionally
okay.
So far.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, to work with someone like that, I think was really kind of exciting because so much of that, like we talked about before, preparation. And when you're dealing with a single performer, that person is the show. And so you try to develop all the things to make it all work well. Now, how long did that run locally or regionally?
Well, it's still going actually.
Okay.
I'm getting her out there to get some bookings at theaters around the country, small theaters, because it's really a good show, and they're not as I say, they're dropping like flies every day. There are not that many people left,
right,
that really were in that era. I mean, I remember starring opposite. Remember Vivian Blaine?
Yes, I do.
Well, Vivian and I did The Boyfriend together, and she had wonderful stories about, she starred in Guys and Dolls on Broadway. And
yeah,
I starred opposite Yvonne Carlo and Gail Storm, My Little Margie. We did 40 Carats together. And
now you're talking about 1955, 53, 50. I mean, I remember that. Now I just gave away my age, but I remember Gail Storm and My Little Margie, And
we did this in the 80s. But she was a great
No. But I'm just saying I remember Gail Storm. Listen, we've got about just less than a minute before we go to a hard break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your days you kicked around on Broadway, some different people that you ran into and so forth. And of course, there's been a kind of a metamorphosis in Broadway since the pandemic. And, I guess getting people back into the theater with the problems that we were hearing about in New York, I guess, is a challenge. I'd like for you to talk about that a little bit. But anyway, we'll be back here in just a little bit. We're going to a hard break. You're listening to Movies and More with our guest, Ken Prescott, and we'll be back in just a few. Thank you.
Do you want to become a radio show host, or do you want to create a radio show? Well, Dr. Stan Fine can help you to have your own radio show and put you on 100 cities daily across the U.S. And you can immediately start recording from a live radio studio. As a radio industry veteran, Dr. Stan Fine has 12 years of experience and has produced and hosted over 1,000 radio shows with over 10 million listeners. Dr. Stan Fine knows how to make this happen for you. He's a pro, and he can turn your dreams into a reality. Dr. Stan Fine will help you with everything from learning how to promote your show, develop a host persona, interview techniques, market your show on social media, teach you how to get guests, and sponsors, and more. Dr. Stan Fine can put you on the air nationwide daily to 100 cities. If you're interested in making your dream come true, if you want to see how it all works, then give Dr. Stan Fine a call at 314-710-8413. That's 314-710-8413. You've got nothing to lose, and Dr. Stan Fine can help make your nationwide radio dreams come true. If you're looking for a new informative health and lifestyle show to gain knowledge and inspiration to help guide your journey to think, work, and live more powerfully, then you need to listen to Sage Advice with Melissa. Now, whether you're trying to improve your life from a mental, physical, or spiritual journey, Sage Advice with Melissa Coleman, CEO of Sage Skincare, delivers weekly advice from industry experts to provide you with insightful suggestions to allow you to thrive with a better quality of life. Melissa's mission? To guide you through the uncharted waters of health and wellness and to give you a voice to help improve your life. So be sure to tune in to Melissa. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, listeners, saying thanks to your customers is nice and polite, but expressing your gratitude in memorable and ongoing ways can boost your business. At Promo Experts LLC, we exceed our customers' expectations. For over 20 years, our product knowledge and experience has helped them with their marketing initiatives and trade show graphics. We are happy to put that experience to work for you. Quality products, great customer service, and prices are our number one priority. We work with you to find unique, creative, and new ideas that fit your image and expectations, helping you build strong relationships with your customers. When you select Promo Experts as your marketing partner, we help you to see more than the big picture. For more information about this exciting opportunity, contact Diane Carson, President, at 636-458-5241. That's 636-458-5241. Let Promo Experts help you to move your business brand beyond the bland. Have you always wanted to write your own book but don't know where to start? Publishing Concepts, a publishing company located right here in St. Louis, offers everything from consulting, book printing, copyrights, ISBNs and barcodes, print book layout, ebook and iBook layout, graphic design, cover design, ghostwriting, typing and editing, distribution, marketing, and more for an affordable price. Visit publishingconceptsllc.com or just Google Publishing Concepts to get started today, or call 314-781-8880. That's 314-781-8880. Publishing Concepts. We help you sell more books.
In today's economy, there are more people looking to buy and sell businesses than ever before. When a company owner needs to sell their business, they can't just stick a for sale sign in the window. They need the assistance of a business broker to locate and vet potential buyers. On the other side, buyers rely on the broker to help facilitate the process of evaluating potential businesses and franchises for sale. A Transworld Business Advisor is the solution for both scenarios. Transworld Business Advisors focus on three core concepts: business brokerage, franchise consulting, and franchise development. Transworld has specialized in the sale of business and commercial real estate. Today, Transworld Business Advisors is a global network of brokers offering a turnkey solution for those that want to build a solid business and future for themselves while maintaining a balanced quality of life. With our comprehensive training program, full marketing support, and local field support, you won't have to start from scratch. Our trained experts and members will help you every step of the way. Transworld Business Advisors has 40 plus years of experience, 10,000 plus businesses sold, and 600 plus brokers, 250 offices worldwide. For a free initial consultation, call Charlie Scarlett, business broker, or Billy Rowland, business broker, at 636-400-6100. Again, that's Charlie Scarlett, business broker, or Billy Rowland, business broker, at 636-400-6100.
Many small businesses do not have a marketing manager. In many cases, it is the company owner that drives marketing and sales efforts with the gut instinct to survive. Even when small businesses do have a marketing manager, though, Many of them are trying to navigate through the complex sales and marketing landscape with little to no success or budget.
How to Promote Your Business with Limited Money is a general purpose how-to business book written for business owners and marketing professionals by business owners Dr. Stan Fine and Joseph W. Cloke. This guide is not intended to be read as a front-to-back chapter book and rather serves as a quick reference guide. Refer to this book as you need specific information and skip around as needed.
Promoting your business with limited money is one challenging feat, but there are unlimited ideas you can apply to achieve objectives you pre-establish. So, put on your marketing hat and let's take action to start showing your prospects the value your business delivers.
A little you need to know about Dr. Stan Fine. During his 60-year career, Dr. Fine has become an authority on sales and marketing business development issues. His presentations have made him much in demand as a speaker and seminar leader. He has taught business development topics at numerous universities across the United States and has conducted over 500 sales and management seminars. Some of Dr. Fine's credentials in corporate America are currently Dr. Fine serves as a co-host of the To Your Business radio show on KDORH 92.9 FM in St. Louis and a co-host of Nationwide Daily Radio Show on my Genre Radio Network on the Xeno Media platform. In 100 cities, he is also on a daily TV show on the Valuable TV and the Real TV networks. Go and get a copy of How to Promote Your Business with Limited Money today.
To purchase your copy of How to Promote Your Business with Limited Money, go to It's Your Business website at www.itsyourbusinessradio.com.
And welcome back to Movies and More. And we've been talking with Ken Prescott, stage producer, film producer, screenwriter. And I guess if you talk to me and I said probably wash your car too. He's that kind of a guy, believe me, I know. But anyway, Ken, we were talking before, and you were able to really kind of be a major factor in the stage production of 42nd Street. And I know you spent a lot of time on Broadway. Just by chance, did you ever run into Bob Fosse by chance?
Well, it's interesting. I'm with this little plug. I was supposed to do a tour of Pippin, but a better job came up to do the lead in Dames at Sea with Yvonne DiCarlo. So I chose. The thing is, my partner in crime, Dorothy Dale Quass, and I. Dorothy, at 14, she was teaching in Chicago. At 15 and a half, they gave her a star act at the Empire Room in Chicago. But at 14, she was teaching, and little Bobby Fosse at 10 came rolling into class. And they actually grew up together. But that's a little segue for a promo. Dorothy and I have a wonderful podcast called Two for the Show. We do it every Monday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we've had big stars on like Stephanie Powers, Frank Stallone, Margaret O'Brien, all kinds of things. So it's wonderful that we can evoke, those times back. But Dorothy said growing up with Bobby, she called him Bobby, he was just a really nice, young kid that wanted to get in the show business. And, and she lost and didn't lose touch, but, he moved out of Chicago to New York and she was touring the nightclub circuit, but he was a wonderful talent.
Without any question. I've read some stuff about him, and, we just lost him way too young. I think it was like 60 when he passed, I believe it was. And
yes,
he, I remember watching him work with talent as they would come in for the audition process. It was a thing like where, he pretty much had a mindset about what he wanted. Nothing short of that would work. And he had the mindset where failure is not an option. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right. And it seemed to me like he probably didn't have a lot of patience with non-perfectionists like he was. Can you walk us through, Ken, the kind of the audition process from your perspective as a director, producer? And, I know over the years, you've probably seen a lot of disappointed faces where talent came in hoping they would get a part and it didn't. And then, of course, you have to tell them, hey, you didn't make the cut or whatever. Walk us through that a little bit, will you?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, it's so interesting as an actor and singer, and I've done a lot of things. When you walk into a room with the director, I never understood why they had a puss on them, because they've already got the job. And it's so much easier just to be nice and pleasant, actually get better auditions from actors and singers, when they're feel at ease. So I always try to do that when I audition. When you audition dancers, usually there's sometimes an open call, but there's a definite call, and there's so many people come to audition, and you give them a call. Sometimes it's the dance captain, not always the choreographer, and it's so variable because it depends on the kind of show it is, the kind of look they have, the kind of style, that they can, in which they can tell in terms of dancing. And then, today, Stace, I'm sure you know that to triple threat, even though perhaps they're not having a lead in the show, they have to be able to sing, and act.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So then after the dance process is whittled down to say, if you're looking for 10, say 20 or 25, then you go through bring them back and they sing, and, then they read. And depending on, of course, the show, as I say, if it's a retro show, or if it's a modern show, or if it's a in the hood show, it depends on, who is cast. My take on casting, and I'm sure that you probably will agree, is that when someone walks in the door and I can see they're going to be a problem in the audition, they're going to be a big problem in rehearsal and a huge pain in the butt in the show. So no, just before they even open their mouth, it doesn't matter how talented they are. You have to have people that, not necessarily are going to, I don't mean to kiss your fanny, but they're going to work with you, because there has to be one director and one producer. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. So you've got to assume that kind of authoritarian role, but you reach out, and really a production, certainly in the film business and television business, I know that an actor has got to be giving with their counterparts, with an ensemble, that type of a thing. And I tell you what, I applaud you for having enough, I guess, experience to spot trouble areas in someone's either personality or persona, and rather than go down that road, you just kind of say, "Hey, look, it's not going to work out. Thank you, bye." All right, and you've got a tough job. Normally, you're under a time restraint, particularly if you know a show's going to open at a certain time. So there's only so many hours that you have for rehearsal and sets and so forth. And again, it's just I know it's a tough job, but I remember watching. I guess it was a special about Bob Fosse, and he was. I'm going to use this term, a taskmaster. Would that be a fair assessment of this guy, you think?
Yes, in a good way, because and that's why his shows were so successful, because he wanted things right.
Yes, right. Well, perfection. It's like the old saying. The guy's lost. He's in I guess Manhattan or somewhere in New York, and he asks us like, "Ma'am, how do I get to Carnegie Hall?" Practice. And really, what you're talking about is perfecting something, and
Yes.
the dedication that you have to have as a director and certainly as a performer. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have to have patience, but then, you also there comes a point. I just got to tell you a quick story. So I'm choreographing and directing On Your Toes, which was originally done by George Balanchine. Anyway, and I had Tina Elg in the cast, and Tina Elg was one of the 3 women in Les Girls with Gene Kelly, Mitzi Gaynor, Kate Kendall. So Tina was a great gal. So and the lead guy is, we have 10 days. It's a summer stock show. It's not, we're not rehearsing for 6 weeks. And the lead guy, I don't know what he was doing, and I let him go for the first day. The second day I said, "Don, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm on, I have to find myself." I said, "Well, we only have 8 more days. So during lunch, find yourself and come back with a character."
You clever dog, you. Well, that's certainly
I
a
mean,
approach.
well, I mean, that's like I have another quick story. I was playing the father in George M. because he all started out as actors with Russ Tamblyn. This night also choreographed the show. So the lights are all, I don't know what the lights are doing. So I called the stage manager in and I said, "What's with the lights?" He said, "Well, you want them perfect?" I said, "Do you want paycheck print?"
Now, you mentioned George M. Now, of course, that you were referring to George M. Cohan, correct?
Yes, George M. It was the new stage version of George M. Cohan. Yeah, but
Right.
I mean, there has to come a point where people have to do their job. I mean, it's all, and I'm nice about it, but I mean, there's a point where it has, Billy Rose, yes or no, no or yes, yes or no.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Well, I remember, I guess Billy was probably best known for his work with Fanny Bryce. Is that correct?
Well, he was married. He was married to Fanny Bryce. The film "Funny Lady."
Right. Barbra Streisand.
Funny girl.
Yeah.
Yes, was based on, and I loved it when she came in. He was cheating with Eleanor Holmes, the swimming star.
He was stupid as a whale, she said.
Yeah, stupid. Well, she comes in the movie. She comes into the bedroom and she looks at her and said, "So, swim something, honey."
Right. That was just absolutely beautiful. And when I remember that movie, the way they got busted, I think she was in California, and the train. Of course, we both have ridden trains over the years, but she flew in a plane and got back like 14 hours or 16 hours or whatever early, and they were busted without any question. And I think Jimmy Caan played the role of Billy, didn't he?
Jimmy Caan did play the role, and it was I loved the movie. I thought it was wonderful. I just enjoyed it to no end, and funny stuff. I mean, there's an example of first class filmmaking, musical filmmaking, and then some of the things we have today, which of course I won't name shows, but I mean, quality is quality, and you can't substitute. You can't substitute quality for schlock and expect it to be as good.
Yeah, sure, of course, absolutely. In our different disciplines of the business, I think back to like two of my big influences. Number one was, actually tied for number one, was Pat McCormick, the head writer for The Tonight Show, who was a longtime friend of my cousin Larry Hovis from Hogan's Heroes. And I remember those two guys were just very, very instrumental. When I first came out of college, I went to LA. I hooked up with my cousin. He introduced me to Pat. And I never will forget, Pat always said, "Listen, if you're going to be a comedic writer, you got to think funny every day." The way he characterized it, it's like, an athlete training every day, lifting weights, doing road work, whatever. And you really have got to develop timing, and it all comes from that daily commitment to it. So what I'm going to ask you, Ken, if you can go back in your memory bank there, who were some of the people that were very, very influential? You mentioned a few of them, but are there maybe a couple in particular that you would pay respect to that was really important in your life?
Well, it's so interesting. I was thinking about that question this morning when you sent them. As I said, my high school music teacher, Bill Kellogg, my first dance teacher, Emmeline Skinner, my first voice teacher, Josie Whaley, and because they were, and Kendrick Wilson, who directed the Playhouse, because they were so professional, when I went on, and when I had to audition for the Muni and everything, I already had that professional conceit. I think that you back this up. I think we mentor ourselves to a great deal, and what I mean by that is, if we're really interested, we see as much as we can. We digest as many films and live shows that are good as we can, and we really draw from the good people, and discard things that perhaps don't don't work. I mean, I've had, just being around shows like being with Yvonne DiCarlo and being with Vivian Blaine and Gail Storm. And I conceived and was starring in a show called Lullaby Broadway with Johnny Desmond. And you get so much just by being with these people and watching them work. I was at the Muni. They have that platform where they rehearse, with the pavilion
Yes.
and the roof on it. And I would go and just sit there and watch these people work, because if you just, shut your mouth and sit there and watch, you're learning.
Well, certainly that's all definitely part of the learning process for sure. We talked about, I guess, at different stages of our careers, we had a certain amount of influence from different people, but invariably, if we look at different actors as they progress, they will always talk about their big break. What was your big break in the business?
Well, my initial break. Now, don't forget, I had just gotten out of Vietnam.
Yep.
I severed my service. I came to New York. I didn't know anybody. Well, it's kind of good. I didn't know anybody. I mean, I didn't know anybody. I found a sublet, another fellow who I didn't even know, an apartment. I saw an ad in the paper. I went at the backstage, which was the theatrical, listings of what's going on. I went down. I auditioned to Radio City Music Hall for a jazz ballet. And to my surprise, I got it. And I was doing the lead pas de deux in the jazz ballet 7 days a week, 4 shows a day for 3 months.
Wow.
Now that'll get you in shape, and
That will definitely get you in shape.
But it was great working at the music hall, and I had been teaching when I was in the service. I taught a lot of dance conventions and stuff. I don't remember how I got on the circuit, but I did. And for some reason, Dance Magazine, which was a big publication at that time, they came and said, "Ken, we'd like to feature you as Dancer of the Month." Well, I didn't know. I went, "Oh my God, oh okay." So I had this photographic session with this wonderful photographer, Ken Duncan, and there I was, and that was kind of. And then was an article, a little audition thing for No No Nanette. They're going to bring it out of retirement with Ruby Keeler, who's going to come back and out of retirement. And this was in 1970. So I answered the ad. I went to the conductor's apartment. I sang. I never even danced. I sang. He said, and Buster was funny, "Darling." I went, Buster. So, so I got the show, and it shows you how funny people are. So I walk in the first day of rehearsal. Now, I must have been dumb. I wasn't dumb. I thought everybody was nice in the business. I mean, I didn't realize, because when I was in music, everybody was nice. I never had any problems particularly. So I walked in the first day of rehearsal, and immediately someone with not a terribly nice attitude came up to me and said, "Is this you in Dance Magazine?" I said, "Well, if it's not, it's my brother."
Twin brother.
Yeah, twin brother. And I mean, I thought, uh-oh, because you see, I didn't realize I never auditioned with any of them in the group calls. I just had a solo audition, and I got the part. And it never dawned on me till years later why they had a little edge to them. But I just wanted to sing and dance and have a great time. Ruby Keeler was great, and I met everybody. I met Noel Coward. I met Rudolph Nureyev, Ginger Rogers, the president, because everybody came to see Ruby because she was such an iconic film star.
Right.
Met Joan Crawford.
Well, Mummy Dearest, remember that movie?
Yes, I do. She was about 4'3". I mean, she was very, very tall, and she was very nice. She went by the orchestra and she said, "Hiya, boys," And I would go to Ruby's dressing room, and remember Joan Blondell?
Oh, sure. She was in the Cincinnati Kid with Steve McQueen and Edward G. Robinson and Carl Malden. I'm terrible with names.
Oh yeah.
But she did
a lot. She did a lot of shows with movies with Ruby, and also Winnie Shaw, who sang the original Lullaby Broadway, and they were in Ruby's dressing room. And so I went in, and there was Joan Blondell. And I'm 22, and I thought, oh my gosh, these are big film stars. So And she said, listen, sweetheart, I want to tell you when Jimmy Cagney and I were Warner Brothers together, I mean, they were just great people because they had to really pay their dues.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful experience being in the show.
Absolutely. You're kind of going down memory lane there. And I kind of dug up some stuff. I was looking at IMDb Pro, and I saw that you had a credit as a singer on the Best of Burlesque. And I believe that was back in, it was a TV movie, and it was in 1981. Why don't you kind of share that with us a little bit, how that came about? Because I tell you what, that had to be kind of a big thing for you at that time.
Well, it was, it was fun. I was the male ingenue, and so it was a Sherry Britton. Sherry Britton was an old-timey stripper, and she was coming out of retirement or, whatever. So they were going to do this show. And I don't know if you know, but we did it in Connecticut, at a, Somerset Theater. And as they said in some old Fred Astaire movie, which way is Connecticut? Anyway, so they're going to film it for Reeves TV. I got to tell you. So I was the singer and all this business. Now, they couldn't get clearance for Sophisticated Lady. So I had to sing Poor Butterfly. We did the whole arrangement overnight. It was it wasn't a mess, but it was a tense situation. So they're going to film it. Now, this is how sometimes people get a little funny. I got to tell you the story. So I call. Now we're getting paid, I forget what, but certainly nowhere near if you're going to get filmed. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's very much scale.
Yes. So I called Screen Actors Guild. And I said, remember Reeves Telecommunications?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were going to film it. So I said, well, how much? And she said, what do you mean you're going to get filmed? I said, what do you mean? What do I mean? I'm going to get filmed. So she told me the price. Well, apparently they called up the producers were trying to pull a fast one and not pay anybody any money for this, or very little. So I'm sitting in the meeting, and the company manager stands up and says, there's a turncoat among us.
All right, no, not.
And I said, it's me. And he went, aha. I said, yes. And very little was said, but thanks to me, everybody got paid a really nice salary, and everybody was able to, if they wanted to, join Screen Actors Guild. And it was only scale, but it was a fairly good amount of money because it was a lot of specialty stuff, singing and dancing and, that kind of thing. But Sherry Britton was funny. It was a hoot to be in the show. And they did all those old burlesque sketches, and the judge,
real quick, my uncle was in the engine repair business, and he used to do the repair work on some vehicles for a guy that owned the Grand Burlesque here in St. Louis. And all the old Jewish comedians, I'm talking about just about 65, 66, the old dang vaudevillians that were originally in the Borscht Belt, if you're familiar with that, right? And
at
that point you had Jackie Mason and I can just go on. But I talked him into calling the guy and let me go down and watch these guys. But he said, "Listen, don't mess around with the strippers." Ken, we got under a minute left. I want you to give a quick commercial about your website, email, so forth, how people can get in touch with you. And we got less than a minute.
Okay, sure. My website is www.hooferproduction, no S, HOOFER, My phone number is 760-409-1464. And my email is hooferproduction@AOL.com.
Great. Ken Prescott, thank you for being on Movies and More. I'm sure our listeners enjoyed hearing your wonderful stories. Till next time on Movies and More, I'm Stacy Hovis. And don't forget to take your mama to church this Sunday. Have a good one. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Now the latest world and national news.
The Public News Service Daily Newscast, April the 18th, 2023. I'm Mike Clifford. Young people interested in running for local office in New Hampshire are learning the ins and outs